Okay. Um, I've started our first online lecture for the course of other things on the Google Classroom along with maybe on YouTube as well. So let's start with this. We the topic that we were discussing um, in our class was about product, and then we moved on to pricing. And I sent you some videos on pricing strategies. So let me just discuss that for a while so that you can understand what that is about. When we are talking about strategic marketing, we have to understand that whatever we are studying is in a broader context. It's the vision is not 3 months or a year. It's more than a year. It's more than 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. So when we are talking about pricing as well, we have to consider what the pricing strategies are and how they work and what happens there. So um, in pricing strategies, um, we have the first thing is to understand what a price is. So a price is dependent on the first thing. There is a thing that is called a cost, and then there is a thing that is called a price. So when we are talking about price, we have to understand that it is not the only price that is included for the customer. The cost is also a part. The cost to the customer is the overall the cost that is incurred while acquiring that product, which means that the monetary cost is not just the only cost, but there are other costs as well. And then we have when we are talking about pricing, we have to understand before going into strategies, we have to understand what pricing policies are. So what are pricing policies? The word policy means that it actually lays down the foundation of the rules that we follow whenever we are taking a decision. That's the policy. So, for example, the university policy has a certain policy regarding attendance, and that policy enables the management to take decisions about attendance or discipline or examination or whatever. Similarly, in an organization, we have a policy of doing something, and then the people on the basis of that policy take some decisions. It's like the constitution of an organization that tells people what and how to take these decisions, what is right and what is wrong, what should be awarded, what should be punished, all of those things. And when we are talking about pricing policies, it means that we lay down the foundation of our pricing for years to come. Now, how do we do that and why do we do that? So we do it because the pricing structure remains the same, or there is no confusion in the mind of the customer, because if there is the person who is taking a decision to set a pricing for a product, if that person leaves the organization and another person joins, then that person changes the pricing, and this happens frequently, then the customer will not be satisfied or will be confused about what's happening. So, about that, when we have to understand that these policies have to be laid down. When we are making these policies include considering the manufacturing cost, firstly, what the cost is, the cost of the raw material, the labor, direct labor, the fixed cost of the machinery or the initial investment. All of these costs have to be considered when we are considering a policy. So when we are doing that, then we have to see what the costs are. If there is a huge investment behind some product, for example, a sugar mill. A sugar mill is a large setup that is set up before manufacturing the first grain of sugar. But then the sugar itself is not a pricey commodity. It's sold for 60 or 70 rupees per kilogram, but it requires a huge investment in the factory. So the fixed cost has to be considered when laying down the pricing policy. Then we have to understand what the market is, how the market is. Is it a sustainable market? Is it a volatile market? Is the market does the market have fierce competition, or does the market have friendly competition, or it doesn't have any competition at all? How are the customers? How do they behave? Is the target market focused on one type of customers, or are there many different diverse target groups, each with a different need for the product? For example, if we take, let's take an example of education. So some people send their children to the school because they want them to be educated and then have a good job. The others send their children just because it's a good thing to do, maybe, or they just want a degree in hand. They have different motivations. So the calculation of the pricing for these individuals is different, because if somebody knows that I'm going to go to a university and get enrolled in an MBA program, and then I will pay this much, but then I will get a job and recover this amount in a couple of years' time, then that is the motivation of that person, and that is different from anybody who just wants education for learning. So the pricing policies will be different for them, because the motivation is different, the need is different. Just like that, the pricing policy also includes the external environment, which means how the government is regulating the pricing, or how the government actually um, encourages or discourages certain pricing competitions among the competitors. All of these things are included in pricing. So what happens is then the pricing policy becomes like this, that there is a certain, for example, one price policy. A one price policy means that the price of a certain product of a certain range remains the same wherever it is sold. And then you can see that that product has printed on it a market retail price, and it's stated in rupees along with the with the tax and everything. Azan ho rahi hai, so I'm just going to stop a bit and then I'll continue. Okay, so we are back and we were talking about pricing policies. So pricing policy can be one price policy or a flexible policy, which means a differentiated pricing policy in which the price is different for different target groups of different locations. For example, it can be so that a particular product is available in different cities or regions for a different price because it is produced in a city, and the 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 cost that it incurs in sending that product to another location is more than the cost that it incurs in sending it the same in selling it in the same location. So the cost changes, and therefore the price may also change. So that depends on the policy. But sometimes what happens is that a company considers all the sales everywhere in the whole country. For example, you can see that biscuits or confectionaries are obviously produced in one factory in somewhere in the country, and then they are sent everywhere to the whole country, but the price remains the same irrespective of the distance that they cover from the factory to the retailer. So their policy is to have a single policy irrespective of the geographical location, but that's not always the case. Just like that, it can be so that people have their policies based on not just geographical locations, but also the type of the delivery or the type of the time of the delivery. If, for example, if you are buying something that you want to be to deliver to you in one day, then the price is different. Or if you want to be delivered in 7 days, then it's different. Or you want it to be packaged in a different way, or there are any add-ons to it, then the price changes. Or if there is a particular way that you can customize that product, then that also can change the pricing. It's also possible that the type of retailer that you are buying the product from also changes the pricing. For example, the convenience stores usually charge more than the supermarkets because they are giving you convenience wherever you are. And that's a thing that is different from others. So we can see that the pricing policy can make a difference in the time or the place of the delivery or how it is delivered. It also can depend on the quality of the product. Quality of the product means there are certain manufacturers who produce multiple quality products, and in fact they would ask you the quality that you would want. For example, paper manufacturing has many different qualities, and if you like to, for example, print a magazine, so if you go to a publisher and you ask them, or printer, you ask them what the cost of printing a magazine would be, their answer would depend on your answer, which means they will ask you what kind of paper do you want. If you want certain kinds of paper, then it will be different on certain kind of printing with certain colors. So the quality of the product changes the pricing. So when we are doing that, then we have to understand that these are the policies that we have to consider before actually going into the strategy. The policies tell us if we have to have a single price, or we have multiple prices. They change with the channel of delivery. They change with the location. They change with the type of delivery, type of transaction. There are so many possibilities. Usually we have a flexible pricing policy for most products. Very few products have one price policy. So when we understand this, then we have to understand that the pricing policies have an objective. For example, if there is a particular product being launched today, and they want to launch it, and then their objective is to have a large customer base, not just this that they produce a lot of profit, but they have a large customer base. Instead of making money in the first 1 year, their objective is to have 1,000 customers. Just making those 1,000 customers is the primary objective of the company. So their policy can be so that the pricing policy reflects this thing, that it caters to every customer's need, even if it has to go below a certain level, just so that the customer buys that product. And even if they have to sacrifice a bit profit on that. On the other hand, the pricing policy can be made on profit maximization. It can be so that they have a very premium kind of product, and they say that we are going to charge a high price, irrespective if nobody wants to come there, doesn't matter. For example, there are many kinds of resorts or luxury villas that you can see in everywhere around the world, and they don't have even 50% occupancy in the resorts all the time. But they do. It does happen that they have a very premium pricing still, because they don't lower their pricing just because they want more customers to come in. They keep their profit margins high, and they charge more because that's their pricing policy. Because if they do not charge that premium pricing, then the image of the brand that they carry will be lowered, and that is something that they cannot afford to do. Therefore, their pricing policy is to have a premium price. So once we understand what pricing policy is, then we can move to understand what pricing strategies are. So pricing strategies depend on what way we want to execute the pricing policy. For example, we want to have more customers. So one strategy could be lowering the price. It could be doing something else, but it could be lowering the price, which means lowering the price means that you lower the price below your competitor. So one strategy could be that. But before that, usually we start off with the cost plus pricing strategy. The cost plus pricing strategy means that you consider your cost before you consider your competitor's price. Why do you consider your cost before that? Because sometimes this happens that the competition is such that you cannot compare your product with the competitor's product, or even sometimes it happens that there is no competitor. For example, if you have made a robot that cleans the house. So it's a one of a kind, a new product that's not there in the market, and there is no competition. So what price do we charge for that robot? Because there is no premium or penetration, there is no high or low. So the reference value that tells you what to price is the cost of that product. So when you understand the cost, then you can add a profit margin to it. Let's say you add 50%. If the cost of making that robot was 30,000, and you say that my price will be 60,000 because my cost was 30. So that will be called cost plus pricing. But that only works when we do not have competitors, or if the competitors are not comparable, their products are not comparable with you, which means it's an unrealistic situation, but it happens. There is a unique kind of handicraft or particular kind of clothing that nobody else makes, so you cannot compare it to that. So that will suit the cost plus strategy. Then we have a demand-based strategy as well. Demand-based strategy means that you see the demand that you have for a product right now and change your price accordingly. Which means that if the price of that product is too high, then there will be a low demand and people will not buy it. Your objective is to meet that demand with your supply. So you change the price so that the equilibrium is achieved. And the equilibrium sometimes changes very quickly. For example, in the case of Uber and Careem, the demand for cars and bikes changes all the time. From early in the morning to late at night, they change all the time. So the demand changes and therefore the price also changes. If you check the price of an Uber car in 5 minutes, you will see that it might change. It might change over beyond even 50% of that price just because it has hiked or gotten low. So we understand that the demand-based pricing is based on the demand, which may change very quickly. It may change in a while as well, in months or so, but it might change very quickly in minutes as well. But if you have a strategy to do that, then that's called the demand-based strategy. And then we have the competition-based strategy, and that strategy has three possibilities: the penetration, parity, and then premium. Penetration means that you are pricing below your competitors, and parity means you are charging as much as your competitors, and premium means you are charging above your competitors. Now, why do we do that? When you're going for penetration pricing, the objective is to actually gain more customers, to gain the customers of the competitor, which means to make them switch. The objective can be to because sometimes it happens that there are many quality products in the market, and then one product comes in, and that product is just average in quality or below average in quality, and it doesn't have anything. It doesn't have a brand value. It doesn't have high quality. It doesn't have any of those things. It doesn't have high advertising budget. So the only way that it can sell is to lower its price. So this is one way that it does this, and this happens. This thing happens that when these kinds of companies, they go for penetration pricing. And then we have a parity pricing. Parity pricing is usually used by people who are operating in perfect competition. Like wholesale market, like when the product is similar with the competitor, there are a large number of sellers, there are a large number of buyers, and information is available to everybody. So that's called perfect competition. And in that perfect competition, it is suitable that you charge a parity pricing because everybody already knows everything. So if you charge even a bit higher than your competitors, the people will switch to the other and they will buy from them because the product is the same. So that's why usually parity pricing is used in wholesale markets when the products are same. Sometimes it is also there in oligopolies when there are two competitors who actually who have a contract or an unofficial contract or just an understanding that they will give the same price to the customer. For example, usually we see that Coke and Pepsi have the same pricing anywhere. Whenever if they increase the price of a certain range, a certain bottle by 5 rupees, if Pepsi does that, then Coke will also do it. So they have a kind of an understanding, and that's why these drinks are always in parity pricing. They are neither premium nor penetration. Then we have the premium pricing, and premium pricing is used when you have something that is of value to the customer. It might be the image of the brand, it might be some functional promise, it might be something in the quality of the product, it can be anything. You have something of value, then you can charge a higher value. The interesting thing to note is that usually penetration pricing and premium pricing are not used very wisely. If you are going for a premium pricing, it is a good tactic to actually increase the premium on that product to a very high level. Let's take an example. If you have a product that is priced at 100 rupees. When you see the market, you see that there are 5 competitors and their pricing are 90, 95, 105, 98, 103. So you get the idea that the pricing is in the range of 90 to 105. And you want to go for premium pricing because your product is better. So any person would think that it would be good if we charge 110 rupees, but that's not a good idea. Why? Because if you charge 110 rupees, people will not perceive your product as premium. Rather than that, they will see it as a bit different from the others. And those people who want to buy a premium product will not be attracted by your product because they will say it's not premium. And those people who want to save money will not buy your product because they will obviously not save money because your product has, if the price is more. So both the target markets will be turned off. Rather than that, you should increase your price to, let's say, 180 rupees. If you do that, then it is because the price is so high, the customers that are going for a very high pricing, a premium product, they will be interested in buying your product, and you will also have a high profit margin. So a good way to do that is to have this, that you go for a premium pricing strategy, to increase the price to a very high level rather than just increasing the price. On the other hand, it is not true for penetration pricing. If you are going in the same scenario, the range is between 90 and 105, and your product is not good, it doesn't have any value, it's not of good quality, you don't have advertising budget, you don't have good endorsers on your side, then you want to go for penetration, you want to go below the least of the competitors. So a good idea for you would not be that you price much below your competitor, which means you price like 60 rupees. No, rather than that, you should just price it just below the least of the competitors, which means just below is, for example, 88 rupees or 89 rupees. Because the type of target market who wants to save money and who is not concerned much with the quality of the product will only see which of the products has the least price. If your product has the least price, they will go for your product. If your product is 1 rupee less or 10 rupees less or 20 rupees less, it doesn't matter to them. As long as the least of the prices, they are okay with it. So it's no use having your product at 89 rupees if the others are above 90 rupees. It's no use decreasing that price because that will only lower your profit margin. So that is something that is some wisdom on pricing strategy. Then we have the different pricing strategies. For example, we have psychological pricing, which means that your price is just like in below the digits. For example, there is a price that the product is you want to price it around 1,000 rupees. So instead of charging 1,000, you say 999 rupees or 995 rupees, because that actually makes it feel that it's less expensive as compared to its actual price, because there are three digits rather than four. But it's a good idea to not use psychological pricing with premium pricing, but always use it with penetration. Because in premium pricing, you are actually trying to make your product look much more expensive. And in psychological pricing, you want to make it seem less expensive. You cannot use them together. Then we have target pricing. Target pricing means that the objective of your pricing is that you reach a certain target. You reach a certain target. For example, you say that we will be charging 500 rupees for the first 100 units that are sold. After that, then our price will be 150. Just like you have those pricing strategies in the annual dinners or the conferences on these things, that the first 100 people will get it on this price, and then so this helps us in achieving those targets. If you want to have 100 people, we have a certain value of pricing, and then if it's above that, then we can charge more. Even if they don't come, our target starts being met. That's why it's called target pricing. And then we have the type of pricing which is called the captive pricing. When we have pricing that is used with the complementary product, which means that there are two different products that are used together. Like a razor and the stick of the razor and the razor itself, or the printer and its cartridge. So these complementary products are used together, and hence we charge a very small amount of money for one of the products, because we know that they have to buy the other products as well without it. Like, for example, you don't have the cartridge, you cannot run the printer. The printer is pretty cheap, but the cartridge is expensive. Or there is a certain equipment, a device, a machinery that you have to install, and then you have to employ the services to make the machine work. You have to hire the operator. So the machine is very, very cheap, but the services of the operator is very high. This is an example used by Huawei Technologies. They use this pricing strategy, and they have gained a lot of market share in Pakistan. They have eliminated their competitors just by using this pricing strategy. It's a very good strategy when it comes to having a combo of equipment and services. So what they've done is that they placed the competitors in Mobilink and Ufone. They now provide these equipment and services to these Mobilink, Ufone, Telenor, all of them, because they have very extremely low price equipment, and then they make up for it with using with high services pricing. Then we have another pricing strategy that is called contingency pricing. Contingency pricing means that your price is dependent on the outcome of the product or service. It's very weird, but it can happen. It's possible that the outcome is different for every customer. For example, a surgery doesn't really is not the same for every person. There are many surgeries that are going on. The same doctor performs the surgery on different people. The outcome is different. The same lawyer fights many cases, but the results are different and the results are not known beforehand. Just like having um, um, a burger, you can know that when I eat that burger, then I will get this utility from it, or when I buy this ballpoint, then I will get this utility out of it. We know it beforehand. But in some cases, we do not know that. And then you can use contingency pricing, which means it depends. If lawyer says that if we win the case, then we get, then one third of whatever we recover is ours. If we lose, then I take nothing. So that is kind of an example of contingency pricing. Then we have different pricing. For example, we have prestige pricing. We have prestige pricing, which means that the pricing is dependent on the value of the prestige that is given to each customer, and that is done along with value-added services. For example, in a hotel, if you want a certain kind of welcome for some delegate that is coming, that certain royal family is coming over to that hotel, and you need certain changes in the environment and the welcome scenario and people and all of that, then the pricing changes because of the extra value of prestige given to those customers. So that is an interesting kind of pricing. Then we have bundling pricing. The price bundling or bundling pricing means that you actually try to have more products together and sell those products together rather than selling those products independently. Then why do we do that? We do that because sometimes our products are complementary, they go with each other. And sometimes this also happens that some of our products are very popular and the others are not. So, for example, if I have a cosmetic brand and I know that a certain, let's say, certain article of makeup is very popular, like a blush on is very popular in that brand, but the lipstick is not popular. So you bundle them up so that the lipstick also gets sold, and that helps to take up those products that are not doing well. So you bundle them up and offer them for a price little less than their individual prices, and that helps in building in taking care of the inventory of those products. So we understand that how this is going, and then then we have um, we have other kinds of pricing strategies that are based on what there is a certain name for it. Pay what you want. Pay what you want. Pay what you want means that there are people who are pricing on their strategies on whatever you want. You can pay what you want. If you decide not to pay, then they are fine with it. If you want to pay double the amount, they are fine with it. Now, this happens really in very premium places when the person in the front of the customer who is stepping into, for example, a restaurant is so rich that that person will never actually not pay for a product. So mostly what happens is that in a pay what you want scenario, people actually pay more than the listed price, and that's pretty interesting. On the a very contrasting side, there is a pay what you can pricing. A pay what you can pricing is when a product is for sale and it knows that people are not everybody can afford it. For example, there is a restaurant that says that we want people to have food and it's okay, whatever they want, whatever they can pay, they please pay that. If it is 20 rupees for a meal, it's okay. If they can pay 50 rupees for a meal, it's okay. Whatever they can pay, it's more of a philanthropic kind of pricing strategy. So we understand that there are different strategies. So they use this pay what you can strategy. This is a very interesting one. Then we have a different strategy, which is actually you can say a seasonal pricing strategy, which means that you combine many different strategies and charge them different for different seasons. For example, you have an off season or an on season and an off season. For example, in the tourism industry, you have seasons like that. So you have a premium pricing strategy for the on-season and a penetration strategy for the off-season. Or you have a psychological pricing strategy or a target pricing strategy for the off-season. This can work in different combinations and can be used. So you use the seasonal pricing strategy for that. So these are the different pricing strategies. What I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this video on YouTube so that you can all see that, and then we can discuss this next time on Sunday. Please log into this so that we can discuss this. And if you have any questions, let me know. I've sent you a couple of case studies as well to see. We will discuss them as well. We will not have a midterm. Instead of that, we will have the exam marks will be entered in the final exam, and we'll have that. So for now, this is enough, and I will give you some other materials to study on the way. From next class, hopefully we will have more interaction, and we will study distribution strategies and logistics and all of that in the next class. So Allah Hafiz for now, and if there are any questions, you can ask me on the Google Classroom. You can also ask me on the YouTube. You can put your comments on the YouTube as well. You can do that as well. That will also help you to understand if there is something wrong with the video or you cannot hear it properly. Let me know. If there is a problem with the video, let me know. So that's about it, and I'll see you in the next session next week. Just hang on. Do the assignments. There will be a quiz probably during the week. I'll post it on. I'll give you the details of how to attempt that quiz, and you can attempt that quiz, and then you can send it to me on Google Classroom, and then I can see it. So be sure to see this whole video, and so that we can actually discuss it, and we can have, and I'll give you an assignment on pricing. We might have some classes after June. I'm not sure. If we do, then we'll have those presentations. If not, then I will be requiring you to make your own some kind of assignment in place of those presentations, so that we can give you those marks for it. I'm not sure right now, because let's see till in the first week of April we'll have an idea what's going on. So that's about it, and we'll see you on next. Thank you a lot.